large-scale utility-scale solar farms require expansive tracks, that it seemed to make a strong measure of sense to include PLS.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may. So, once again, I believe our meeting here is starting, laying the foundation going forward as to what the elected officials of this county are telling the planning commission, here's what we would like you to do. And my input is going forward is that we restrict this. We have a workable, we restrict this out of Lake and Stream for certain, and maybe some forest ag areas, but we make it as restrictive as possible, and maybe only approve it in certain districts, i.e. industrial or light industrial. And that way, we're staying within the confines of the workable, but we're protecting the land that we have. And I think that's what today's meeting is about, isn't it? We can't make decisions, but we can give guidance as an elected board where we want our appointed board to go.
That's correct, Mr. Claremont. An overarching reason for this gathering is, as I think Mr. Ormsby indicated at the front of our discussion, Planning Commission and staff have been wanting firm direction from the governing body as to what path we could take moving forward, given we're in a moratorium.
So I apologize, but I have an appointment I have to make at 2 o'clock, so I have to leave at 1. But my input, Mr. Chair, is that we direct our planning and zoning committee to make number one, workable, and to make it as restrictive as possible to protect our land. People don't come up here to see solar farms. People come up here to see God's country. And I think that's my input is that we restrict it out of Lake and Stream, and we restrict it as much as possible to industrial districts. That's my input.
If I could real quick, because I know Commissioner Claremont's got to leave.
We got a couple of that to leave, but.
Okay. I would like, I don't disagree, but I do want to bring up the point. The more restrictive we make it, the more we push developers to go to the MPSC. And if they come to us and we are restrictive to the point that we're not willing to work with them, they can still go to the MPSC, and whether we want it in Lake or Stream or not, the MPSC is going to give them the permit to do it within confines.
Well, and Mr. Chair, I may again, I know for debate purposes, my input is that we do make it restrictive as possible. And if they want to go to the state, if they want to go that route, at least we've done what we can do to protect what we've been elected to protect. That's my opinion.
Where are you coming from?
I agree with Mr. Claremont. We have to protect lake and stream zones. We've got a beautiful county. We want to keep it that way, and I think a lot of us are looking at ways to restrict those in. But we have the right to do that. We just change the zoning.
I think we should.
Steve? Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think first and foremost, it seems to me, I agree workable ordinance is the direction we should go, Commissioner Claremont. But I think first and foremost, we need to throw out the ordinance that we have now and start from scratch here, in my opinion, to get it cleared up. Let me suggest something. You made a great point, sir, about the Lake and Stream District, and if you could bear with me, Mr. Chairman, this might take up to 5 minutes to read, but I think it's very important that we consider this, because there is a path forward, and there is a way forward to get there. Under Michigan Public Act 233 framework, we still retain meaningful local authority over utility solar placement. But that authority is no longer absolute. Our influence is now strongest when it is exercised to clearly define science-based land use standards that can withstand state review under Public Act 233. I would ask this board to consider developing a cold water trout stream conservation overlay district as part of our zoning and master plan framework. This would be a mapped conservation overlay that identifies and protects the county's designated cold water fisheries, including trout streams, tributaries, lakes, and their supporting groundwater recharge areas. It's an important term, groundwater recharge areas, because it goes outside the creek or stream bed here. These systems are not just recreational resources, they're thermally sensitive hydraulic systems that depend on stable groundwater inputs, forest cover, and low sediment loading. Once these conditions are altered at a watershed scale, the temperature and flow requirements that supports cold water fisheries is very difficult, if not impossible to restore. So the issue here is not aesthetics or land use preference, it's maintaining hydrologic function. This overlay would not be a blanket prohibition on utility-scale solar development. Instead, it would establish objective siting standards with hydrologically sensitive areas. The intent is to move from general zoning discretion to mapped science-based performance standards. The county's position as interveners before the NPSC is strengthened, as decisions there are heavily influenced by technical evidence, hydrological studies, fisheries classifications, soils, and document environmental constraints. A formally adopted overlay district gives the county a pre-established science-based framework that can be supported by expert testimony from fisheries biologists and hydrologists. This does not expand our authority beyond state law, but it does maximize the authority we still have by making it more defensible, more technical, and less subjective. The technical reports and expert testimony of biologists, engineers, and hydrologists are exactly how state-provided intervenor funds are intended to be used. They're allowing us to build our own case here and paying for it, incidentally. I would ask that we direct planning staff to evaluate the feasibility of drafting a cold water trout stream conservation overlay district. Their efforts should be supported by new, fresh, outside legal counsel with direct experience specific to NPSC procedures, protocols, and hearings, preferably a firm having previously represented interveners in front of the NPSC. This firm would represent us before the NPSC during the intervention process, as well as advise our planning commission on all master plan revisions and land use matters requiring a legal opinion going forward. What I'm trying to say there, folks, is I think we need to put this under one umbrella. Get one attorney, one expert, put it all under one umbrella, because here's what we're faced with. We're faced with creating a new ordinance from start, and I believe this overlay theory could also be used for prime agricultural land as designated by USDA. But I think part of the problem is our existing ordinance, whatever we have now, probably ought to be thrown out because it's flawed and the judge has already ruled against us in court. Am I looking?
No, he threw it out because the legal counsel did not present the material in support of the regulation that they had voluntarily gone along with in our ordinance, original ordinance. And in response to your questions on how did we get there, the Lake and Stream District is a district 500 feet deep from the perimeter of any body of water or any perennial stream in the county. Now, why it said Lake and Stream is permissible, except in our ordinance, we excluded 500 feet from the Black River, the Cheboygan River, the Indian River, the Sturgeon River, Black Lake, Burt Lake, Deverell Lake, Douglas Lake, Echo Lake, Monroe Lake, Mullet Lake, Labor Pond, Lake Huron, Lake Rondo, Lake Lancaster, Lance Lake, Long Lake, Paradise Lake, Roswell Lake, Roberts Lake, Silver Lake, there's two of them, Tower Pond, Twin Lakes, Vincent Lake, Wildwood Lake, and Walden Pond. So 500 feet from any of those bodies of water cannot have a solar farm.
Or the tributaries?
No, unless it's within 500 feet of those bodies of water. There's 27.
Sir, I'm talking here about groundwater recharge areas that exceed way beyond 500 feet.
If you want to look at the recharge area or watershed, Kent County is a watershed.
Exactly. Exactly. And I might add, that, you know, Chuck, I might add that I recognize that we cannot exclusively exclude solar. So we really probably would need to simultaneously come up with an overlay district where we are permitting solar. Now, when I look at your numbers here that were provided by Mr. Turst, they're pretty limited here. You know, we don't have a lot of industrial land. We can also do an overlay that specifically sites. Now, the one thing I would caution everyone about is that has to be located within close proximity to a transmission main. Or once again, we're excluding and not being fair to these people. Of course, we do want to be fair, but we also need to be fiercely protective of our natural resources. Now, this board, back several months ago, passed a resolution, which 2026-04, relative to stewardship for our natural resources. The intent of that was that be brought into and made a prominent, a cornerstone, if you will, of our master plan that carries us forward for the next 10 years. I hope you guys have seen that. Have you seen this? Have you seen the?
The master plan we have right now also has that we were going to promote renewable resources, renewable energy resources.
We can promote them. We could promote them in the right location. But if the right location is not within the recharge area of the Black River particularly. Now, I did review the plans and specs from EDP, and you are correct. They stay right within that 500, but they are 502 feet from the Black River. My concern is that there are situations where it needs to be greater than 500 feet.
I'm not saying.
Now, but here's the problem. If we do that, and we try to do that under 233, they're gonna throw our ordinance out, and it's gonna go right back to the state. So we need to find we need to find a proof. And the way to do that is to do the hydrologic studies and identify areas where solar or any other heavy industrial is appropriate. You know, I throw that out there, you know, I'm sure it comes out of left field, but I can tell you from conferring with legal counsel other than our own, this is a very doable idea, and it will protect the natural resources. And the same thing can be done, sir, with USDA categorized prime farmland. I'm not sure how much of that we have in Cheboygan County.
Not
There are
much.
people in the room that know a lot about our soils.
Not much.
But I would assume it's not a whole lot. But that too is what, sir, should be protected under an overlay. And perhaps we should consider finding a spot where it will work with our natural environment and creating an overlay that's specific to solar development.
Well, if I may, specific to this conversation, and where to allow them, as we've been touching upon here, we're in the midst of our master plan update. And from the master plan, we spoke our zoning ordinance, but as part of the master plan discussion, there has to be consideration for expanding our industrial zoning districts. Because as you noted, Mr. Warfield, they're pretty limited right now.
Yes.
So, you know, that's an integral component to this overall discussion in the future about allowing them somewhere. And we have to identify where that possible expansion would be appropriate.
Thank you, Mike. Mr. Chairman, if I may make an unusual request, I'd be willing to even waive some of any time I may have left available to me. But I would like to see if we couldn't address a comment from Joe Long, Cheboygan County citizen. He has been very active and involved all along, and he's had his hand up back there for over an hour. Fall asleep. Would that be possible?
And Joe, I've not seen your hand up there, but realize this is a work event between
I know you got a couple of you guys gotta go, but real quick, one, I had a couple things. One is, 1990, we had 34 active dairies in Cheboygan County. Today we have 0. Today you have 4 farmers, including myself, that are what I would consider major farmers within the county. Total. That's myself, Mr. Ryman, Rick Trumbull, and Ross's. That's the extent of agriculture in Cheboygan County right now. I would argue, and I don't have any land going into this thing, I got no skin in the game. And I'm probably not gonna make any friends with Mr. Long behind me. I would argue economic best use of the land, just like somebody that's gonna go and open a gravel mine. And I say that because you've got all this agricultural land that we have in Cheboygan County that people like myself, and I farm it, but you got a lot of people that aren't farming it, that can't farm it. Matt Bonnet is a perfect example. He's got 400 acres out there that he can't do anything with. He's paying taxes on it. He's renting it to me for $10 an acre to go out and put up hay. If he's got an opportunity to put solar panels on his land, the economic and best use of that land right now today is solar panels. They're gonna pay him $800 an acre per year, as opposed to my $10 an acre. Economically, he'd be an idiot not to do it. And I just say that because we talk about the agricultural land in Cheboygan County. I wholeheartedly agree. I'm in agriculture. I farm it. I go out there every day and do it. I wholeheartedly agree. But at the same time, we don't have anybody that wants to step up and produce under agriculture anymore. And especially not in northern Michigan because our seasons are so short. So I just point that out, that we don't have agriculture in Cheboygan County anymore. We have recreational land. That's all we have. Agriculture is gone. There's 4 of us that produce agriculture to any extent. Yes, there's more that have 5 cows or whatever. There's 4 of us that produce any kind of agriculture in Cheboygan County in a mass content. The other thing I wanted to bring up while all the commissioners were present is I drove around Friday. I took the whole day and drove around the county. In a matter of about, I shouldn't say the whole day, because in a matter of about 3.5 hours, I counted 100 plus violations of planning and zoning. And I wholeheartedly agree with Chuck's comment this morning in the fact that if the commission, and I'm gonna be blunt, and I apologize, if the commission doesn't wanna support us and give us a enforcement officer, effective tomorrow, I will resign from planning and zoning. Because I don't think we're making any headway, and I think everything we're doing is a lost cause. We're sitting here, and we go into these meetings, and we spend 3 and 4 hours at a meeting to put these things into place with absolutely 0 enforcement, and I count over 100 violations in 3.5 hours within our county of planning and zoning. Mr. Turris does not have the time to enforce that. Mr. Turris' job is to create and work with the developers within our county to bring development to our county, not to enforce developments that we've already put in place. And so we are in desperate need of a planning and zoning officer and planning and zoning enforcement. And I enjoy what I do on planning and zoning. I do it wholeheartedly, and I'll do it all in. But we gotta have enforcement. If we don't have enforcement, we're doing it all from here. It's a lost cause. And we've talked about it for the 2 years that I've been on planning and zoning, and I've just come to the conclusion that it's like beating your head against a brick wall. We're doing everything we're doing, and we don't have any enforcement to go with it. And it'd be like Dale writing a policy and procedures book for his officers, and then you don't enforce the policies and procedures book. I mean, and so that's why I wanted to say it while you were sitting here, because you understand it.
No, I mean, if you have a standard, you enforce the standard. If you don't enforce the standard, there is no standard. And so, I mean, that's like getting a haircut. If you're saying you gotta have a haircut to work here and grooming, but you allow somebody to grow the hair long, what's the sense of having enforcement or standard, I mean? And so I think that is something that we need to look at as a board. That seems to be a valid concern for your commission.
I just want to add to what you just said, and that is, last week, I got a call from somebody asking about a particular, it was an infraction. And I said, well, it has to go to county, it should go to the county planning zone. And I was told it was a joke, and that made me very angry. That's what we're up against, this commission is up against, and it includes you guys, because nobody's enforcing anything, they think we're a joke.
I've been putting up with that for 40 years. People come to me and they'll ask me what they have to do, and I'll tell them. And they'll say, well, why should I? And they'll give me 5 examples in the area of people not following those regulations.
Nobody neighbor zoning.
So my parting shot then, Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yeah,
I believe this board does need to look at hiring an enforcement officer for Mr. Turk's office. And I know right now we can't make the motion because this isn't on the agenda, but I do certainly support that. And I believe the county is spinning its wheels. If we say here's a standard but don't enforce it, that would be just like Mr. Ormsby said, that would be like still working, tell my deputies to go out and enforce speed, but
Don't worry about it.
don't
It's
worry
20
about
miles
it if
over.
they're doing 100 miles an hour. So I apologize, I do have to leave for a minute, my appointment.
Okay, get going.
So thank you all very much. Thank you, planning commission, for what you do. And it is certainly appreciated. I know it's one of the hardest jobs out there, especially I hear no enforcement. That's just,
Okay, Mike Kavanaugh.
Just one more comment. Every meeting that we have, enforcement comes up. We've sent a couple letters to the board saying, hey, we need somebody. We spend hours and days on some of these special use permits. We put a few conditions on them so the applicant can get his business, but we also want to protect the adjacent property owners. And when they leave there, it's done. They never come back, they don't put the buffers on, they run their business the hours that they want. They don't have any parking, they don't do any of the things we ask them to do. And we're spinning our wheels, and it's not Mike's fault, we just don't have the help to do that. Mr. Ormsby only counted 100, I have to go down and spend that much time and count 200. And we just need someone to pick that up, because we have a beautiful county, and we're ruining it with a lot of the things that are happening. We have contractors' yards going next to people's houses with no permits. We got this storage container situation now, the Conex containers, the boat storage. One group, one guy has what, 73 of them, or that never were permitted. They're all over, they're going in next to your house. We need some enforcement on all of those things, especially special